Hey guys, it's your girl T, and I'm here in a different location, but I'm still here to bring you the recap of Real Housewives of Atlanta. So what happened this past Sunday was a lot of hot piping tea. Lots of tears were spilled, lots of drama ensued. This is probably one of the best episodes thus far. So let's go ahead and get started. So in the opening scene, we see all the women. They're down in the kitchen. Candy's cooking breakfast, and she's basically telling everybody that her and Todd were on Skype sexting each other, and that she was showing Todd her vagina. And I was just like, really, Candy? Folks are trying to eat breakfast. We don't want to imagine you showing your vagina to Todd. No one cares. So if that's not bad enough, Portia then decides to tell everybody that she has her coochie pierced. And everybody's like, what? You have your thing down there pierced? And she's like, yeah, it's pierced. And she starts giggling like a little ditzy-ass schoolgirl. So moving on to the next scene. So in the next scene, we have Cynthia Bailey, and she starts talking about Noelle and how Noelle has his boyfriend named Arthur, but how NeNe, feels some type of way about that. And NeNe says that point blank, she does not agree with Noelle having a boyfriend, and she thinks that Cynthia is doing the wrong thing by encouraging it. When I tell y'all, folks drug NeNe up and down Twitter by her blonde little wig. They ripped NeNe a new one. Everybody went in on NeNe. NeNe was talking a lot of stuff. She's talking about a lot of girls nowadays are fast. They're always at the mall twerking and shaking their ass. And they'll go home. They'll leave home in jeans. And then they'll turn around and put on mini skirts. And I just find that kind of funny coming from a woman who was once a stripper. There's nothing wrong being a stripper. I've been to strip clubs. I have friends who are strippers. It's not a big deal. But how dare you talk about little girls being fast when your fast ass was swinging off of somebody's pole. Now, granted, she was not a teen mom like a lot of folks have insinuated. She had Bryson in her 20s. But with that being said, a lot of her parenting methods obviously didn't work either, because it's come out that Bryson has been arrested umpteenth times. The first time that he got arrested was back in 2011 when he was caught stealing razors from Walmart in Decatur. Your mama is Miss I'm Rich Bitch NeNe Leakes. What you doing stealing razors from Walmart? That's what threw me off. And then on top of that, he has a baby now. He's grown enough to have a baby. His child is out of wedlock. So I guess a lot of folks felt like NeNe really had no room to judge Cynthia. Cynthia was saying that she'd rather be going to go pick up her daughter and her boyfriend and being there to supervise, as opposed to having to take care of a grandbaby. I have no issues personally with how Cynthia's raising her daughter. As parents, we're all learning. It's not easy, and I'm glad that Cynthia and Noelle have a very open relationship where she's comfortable enough to come and talk to her mom. Me and my child are the same way. My son talks to me about girls and, little things that he's going through and stuff like that, and we chop it up when we talk. I don't understand why people are acting like kids don't date. Even if it's something not as serious, a lot of kids in school go together, and that's their little boyfriend at school, and, kids been so-called dating since the beginning of the time. So I didn't understand why NeNe was so hyped up. I'm sure her youngest, Brent, probably do have a girlfriend. NeNe just don't know about it. So I was the main ones who swept them down. It's not their child, and their child will never, their child be the main one doing any and every damn thing. Make sure your porch is swept clean, NeNe, before you judge Cynthia about her parenting skills. Nobody is perfect. We're all learning. And when somebody is your friend, you give your opinion, but you do it in a respectful way. You don't do it that's going to cause them harm or cause them to cry. So I just don't think Cynthia should have took it that seriously. Cynthia should have did a supermodel walk and just chin checked the hell out of NeNe right there and then in the kitchen. Saying that would have made for some really good TV. But Cynthia's not that type. Cynthia's a sweetheart, so she just broke down crying. So she broke down crying, and everybody ran to go see about Cynthia. Her and Kenya were talking. Portia were in there, and they were all talking and kind of crying together. And Candy told Cynthia that she understood where Cynthia was coming from, because Candy is too raising a daughter, and that it's different raising daughters than raising boys. And I think, and a lot of people were saying on Twitter that sometimes when women are mothers of boys, they don't understand how hard it is. And I don't think that's necessarily true, because I'm raising two boys, but I do understand. I think that it is a lot harder raising girls, and you have to stay on top of girls a little bit more, because at the end of the day, if they get pregnant, guess where that baby going? That baby is coming to your house, not mine. So it is different when you're raising girls. So you have to come at it with a different approach. You don't want your daughter sneaking around and doing stuff, and you don't want to have blinders on when it comes to your daughter, or your son for that matter of fact. But a lot of times with daughters, you have to stay on top of them more. So in the next scene, NeNe basically half apologizes to Cynthia. She tells her to come out the room, and she's saying that she really didn't mean no harm. And she kind of just breezed over the situation, the fact that Cynthia was crying. But I thought what was the best part of that scene was the fact that Portia and Kenya were able to come together. They were in the room crying and boo-hooing. And Kenya's been through a lot. You know, her mom literally had her and just gave her away to her aunt. Her grandmother didn't want to have anything to do with Kenya. She never wanted a child. It almost makes me feel like maybe Kenya might have been a rape child. Her mother might have been raped by whoever Kenya's father is, because Kenya never speaks about her father. I don't know if she knows who her father is. And for her mother to be so distant towards her own daughter, makes me feel like not only was Kenya unwanted during that pregnancy, but after she had that child, she wanted to have nothing to do with her. It makes me feel like maybe her mother might have been a victim of rape or molestation. You just never know. But I definitely feel bad for Kenya. She's definitely been through a lot. And for anyone who wasn't raised with the mother or father or with that love of two parents, it can be very, very hard. So I kind of understand that emotional attachment that she feels that she needs and why she wants a baby so bad. She wants something to love because she didn't grow up with that same love in return. So I just kind of felt like that moment between her and Portia was very special to see them bond like that, especially because a lot of times as women, we look down on other women who are at a certain age, who are not married and who don't have kids. So I think it was very cool to see both of them bond over the fact that they're both motherless, but that they want kids, because I think there's a lot of women out there who can definitely relate to both Portia and Kenya's situation. So in the next scene, we have Portia. She ends up leaving Kenya. She goes back to her room, and she's in her room bawling her eyes out. And NeNe just happens to overhear her. So NeNe comes in the room, and she's like, you know, Portia, what's going on? What happened? And she's basically crying about Cordell, and she's real upset about the whole Cordell situation, how her divorce went down. So NeNe decides to give her some advice, and NeNe tells her, you know what, you need to call Cordell, try and figure out what you want to do, close the chapter. You know, her and Greg ended up working back out. Maybe she should give Cordell a call. And I kind of found that interesting and kind of found that funny that NeNe would tell her to call Cordell and that Portia would be so willing to text him. Now, this is the same man throughout the entire season. You done drug him. You done said he was gay. You done called him a voodoo priestess. You know, Cordell has been everything but a child of God since the beginning of this show, but yet and still she still misses him. And if he was to call her right now and say, Portia, I want you to come back home, I want you to be my wife, she would go running in a heartbeat, because she was accustomed to a certain lifestyle. And I think she more or less misses that lifestyle more than she misses Cordell. But that's just my opinion. So in the next scene, NeNe ends up meeting up with Kenya, and her and Kenya are talking, and she asks Kenya flat out what happened between her and Apollo. And Kenya's like, you know what, nothing happened between me and Apollo, and I'm tired of people making it seem like it's more than what it is. She's like, I don't need to troll the prison yard looking for a man. I can just find any man. It's not a big deal. Now, I found that very funny, because this is coming from the same woman who hired Walter to be her boyfriend to get on the show. Man, please don't throw no stones. But anyway, so she goes in to go talk to Phaedra, trying to smooth things out. She has her little diarrhea dog with her. So she's talking to Phaedra, and Phaedra is basically giving Kenya 0 fucks. She doesn't want to have anything to do with Kenya. She really doesn't want to be fake and chop it up with Kenya. Phaedra basically starts pumping her breast milk. And I'm sitting here cracking up, because all you're hearing is Kenya talking. And then in response, Phaedra's just like, shoo, 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 shoo. And I'm just sitting there dying, because Phaedra is not paying Kenya no attention. And the whole situation just looks really uncomfortable. And eventually Kenya gets the hint, and she gets up and she walks out the damn room, and she takes her diarrhea dog with her. So in the next scene, NeNe decides to take all the ladies to go see a drag queen show. And they end up seeing Miss Chabliss. And Miss Chabliss, I guess, is an old drag queen. She's been in the drag queen game since the 70s. Miss Chabliss is the skinniest, boniest drag queen I've ever seen in my life. I know some damn drag queens will run circles around Miss Chabliss, but I guess we'll give her props because she's been in the game for a long time. So that's NeNe's homegirl, and NeNe's introducing everybody to her. And in between NeNe doing all these introductions and getting all hyped up and hyper because she's at this drag queen show, Kenya decides to throw a nice piping hot cup of hot tea dead in NeNe Leakes' face. So in her confessional, Kenya says that she believes that NeNe feels right at home because NeNe has an Adam's apple, and she also wonders if NeNe tucks. So when I heard that, I fell the hell out. Kenya loves to throw shade. She will come for you even if you don't send for her. So then in the next scene, they end up going back to the house and they're all sitting there chopping it up and talking. So Kandi reveals that she's writing a musical and she wants to know if the other ladies would be interested. And she wants NeNe to star in the musical because she feels like, NeNe's not really busy right now. That was shade, Kandi. I caught that. Yes, we all know NeNe's not busy right now because the new normal has been canceled and she is no longer on Glee. So I found that funny how Kandi kind of threw that in there. So in the next scene, they're all sitting down to have dinner, and Portia says that Cordell texts her back, and she's acting like a little giddy schoolgirl, and she's like, what should I tell him? This is what he said. What should I tell him? And they're telling her what to say, and she doesn't want to type anything down, so Kandi snatches her phone and basically types out what she wants to say to Cordell. And then Portia just starts giggling like a little schoolgirl. This girl acts like she's 13 years old instead of 32. As intellectual as Cordell carries himself and how articulate he is, how he could put up with that ditzy, kiddish behavior is beyond me. But she's a straight up trip. So she just starts giggling and she starts getting like really embarrassed. And everybody can tell that she really does still love Cordell. Like I said before, it made no sense why she threw all that shade, knowing that if he was to call her back and say, come on home, she would pack her bags right there and then in Savannah and run back to Cordell. So after that whole situation, NeNe then proceeds to tell Portia that she's not a good friend and that she doesn't treat NeNe and the other ladies the way that NeNe treats them. And I just kind of found it funny that NeNe's also quick to put together these female bonding trips, but then turn around and start mess to divide them even more. It's almost like she gets off and just starting a bunch of drama and throwing shade all over the place. So while they're going back and forth, and once again Portia's crying about what NeNe said, a giant roach ends up flying into the scene. Now, if you guys have ever lived down south, if you're in the south, y'all know there are no flying bugs like there are in the south. The south has the biggest, strangest bugs that you will ever see in your life. This cockroach is literally taking over the whole scene. All you see is weed flying, everybody running. They're trying to kill this cockroach. They're screaming and carrying on. It's like, come on, all y'all was raised down south. Y'all act like y'all wasn't raised on fried bologna sandwiches and Kool-Aid. I'm gonna need y'all not to act all bougie like y'all ain't never seen no flying bug before. But Kenya, being the Detroit hood booger that she is, she found the roach and she killed it. Kenya didn't give a damn. I couldn't believe that it took a damn former Miss USA to basically find the roach, corner it, and kill it. You can tell Kenya is straight up hood. She's straight up from Detroit. She had no problems getting at that roach head up. And I also came to the conclusion that that damn roach was Sheree. Somehow Sheree still wanted to be involved in the show, so she reincarnated herself as a roach. She put on some She by Sheree, and she decided to just fly by the scene and give the ladies a hard time. Where the hell did this damn flying roach come from? It had to be Sheree. So anyways, go ahead, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on this episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta. All right, deuces.